All right, one more brief word from me in this lesson because I want to say a little bit about President Harry S. Truman. So Harry Truman was a pretty humble guy. He came from a small farming town in Missouri. He served in World War I, and when he came home, he tried to become a businessman, failed at that, but was ultimately successful in politics. He became a local politician and was eventually elected to the Senate in 1934. Now, one kind of fun anecdote about this, while he was serving in the Senate, he was the chairman of sort of a financial oversight committee, and he discovered that the White House was pouring resources into a secret project. And when he talked to the White House about it, they told him to not worry about it. It was top secret, and he did not have clearance to know anything more. So Truman, for good or bad, threw his hands up and said, okay, basically let it go. That project was the Manhattan Project. So that's kind of a fun aside there. So then in 1944, during the presidential election, FDR and the other Democratic Party leaders want a running mate that they feel like they can control. They knew FDR was in poor health, that he probably would not survive a fourth term, so they wanted someone that they could sort of keep in check. And Harry Truman fit the bill. So Truman is named FDR's running mate for the 1944 election. They obviously win. FDR dies, however, in 1945, and Truman is immediately sworn in as president. So this is a very remarkable event in human history because at the time, as World War II is winding down, you have what are called historically the Big Three: Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin. And they're called the Big Three because they are probably the most influential men of the 20th century. You could throw Hitler in there too, but it's just very unique that you have three monumental characters all coming together at the same time, involved in the same things. And then all of a sudden, Truman falls into it. He's a very unremarkable guy, a failed businessman from a small town in Missouri. So, Truman orders the use of the atomic bomb on Japan, and he once said about that, "It is a terrible thing to order the use of something that is so terribly destructive, destructive beyond anything we have ever had. We have to treat this differently from rifles and cannon and ordinary things like that. And human emotions must change now, or humanity faces absolute and complete destruction." So Truman never claimed to have regretted the decision to use the atomic bomb, but he also set the precedent for not using atomic weapons. Many leaders, political leaders and military leaders, wanted the U.S. to use these weapons. General MacArthur, the leader of the UN coalition against North Korea, wanted to use atomic weapons in the Korean War. Winston Churchill also pushed the U.S. to use atomic weapons against Russia while they still had a monopoly on them. But Truman refused. He was one of the first, if not the first, political leader to not let his military chiefs have reign over the most advanced weapons available to them. He even at one point suggested turning over all nuclear weapons and the means of making them to the UN. So this relatively unremarkable man changed an ancient tradition of warfare, which is that whenever you have a weapon, you use it. You use the most advanced weapons you have available. But Truman ended that tradition. So that's Harry Truman for you.